Good morning, everybody.
What's going on here?
Good morning, everybody. This February 9th meeting, the Madera County Board of Supervisors is called to order. Are there any additions to the agenda?
It's February 23rd meeting.
Is it February? Well, this one says February 9th. I'll be darned. Good old Robert. Oh, okay, Robert. Yeah.
Chairman,
Well,
member
yes,
of the
23rd
board,
on
there
top.
are no
Anyway,
additions to the
sorry.
agenda.
Any additions to the February 23rd agenda?
There are no additions to the agenda.
Okay. Council, please read closed session.
Yes. Conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. County negotiators are Adrian Caleb and Ken Caves. Employee organization are all units. Performance evaluations pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. Title of the position is County Administrative Officer. Existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D1. There are two cases, Canandaigua Wine Company versus the County of Madera and Certainty Corporation versus the County of Madera. Anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D2. Significant exposure to litigation. There's one case, and the final matter is the appointment and employment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957 of the county librarian.
Okay, anything from the public? Seeing none, let's go to closed session. Morning, everybody. Regina, do we have anything to report from closed session?
There are no reportable items.
Okay. Okay, moving to the invocation and the pledge. Please stand for the invocation.
Let's pray. Father God, we thank you. We humbly stand before you today and thank you for another day in which we can enjoy not only this community, but our lives, our families, and those that are around us here at work. And we thank you for that. And we thank you for this community that you've allowed us to be a part of. We ask that you would continue to guide these supervisors for wisdom here in Madera County, wisdom and growth and strategies for development as well as quality of life. We thank you again for those that have invested so much time and energy in protecting this community, for the fire department, for the sheriffs, for our police, that you would continue to protect them and enable them to do the job that they've been called to do. God, we thank you for the educators in Madera County that are providing education for our young ones that are coming up and going to continue to lead this community into new developments. We thank you that they would be inspired and excited about their jobs as they educate our young children. We also thank you for those that work in the health services department that give quality health care, and also to those that are in need of mental health guidance, God. And for those that are homeless in our communities, we ask that you would continue to watch over them and guide them and bring transition into their life, and that we could all be a part of a better community here in Madera County. We ask these things graciously in the midst of knowing how much we're blessed, and thank you for all that you've done and continue to do. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Before we go to the Pledge of Allegiance, is there anybody who would like to say anything about the members that died from our last board member? I would, Tom?
Yeah, I would like to talk about Linda Brownfield. One of my best friends over 30 years, worked for me at the ranch for about 20. She's from Madera here, and they used to go together in high school, but her dad wouldn't let her go out with Don because he was such a rowdy guy. And so they met up 5 years ago, and it changed his life and her life, and they were the happiest people I've seen for a long time for a couple. And she had a heart attack the night before Valentine's Day and passed away Valentine's Day. And yet I talked to my friend actually again yesterday, and he's getting over it, trying to a little bit, but she was a great lady. When she walked into a room, she lit it up. I mean, it was just amazing how she was. So in her middle 60s and way too young to pass away. So thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, William or Bill Weber was a good family friend, a pillar of this community, former mayor of Madera, just a wonderful man. Shared office space with him over on I Street in my dad's office, and just the epitome of tough and hardworking, and just cared deeply about his family and his community. And so to remember him, he was a wonderful man. Actually worked out at the winery for years and years and years. So thank you.
Good. Okay. I'd like to talk about Al Pearts. Al Pearts ran one of our great auto parts house for years and years over by the post office. When I was 16 years old, he basically gave me a generator for my 57 Chevy, a rebuilt generator, because I couldn't afford it. And his family and been friends of our family, and my father-in-law, Dick Pura, were best of friends. Great guy, lived a long life. And then I'd like to also talk about Bill Weber a little bit, because he was one of my mentors as I was going through the industrial, as I was going through the industrial group. He's one of the people that told me to go to Georgia Pacific and go sweep floors so you could work yourself up in a industrial type thing. He was, like Brett said, city council and mayor of Madera. Quite a respectable guy. I was talking to him up to about 3 months ago, and on different things. And good guy. And so I'd just like to talk about that. Matt, would you please say the Pledge of Allegiance? Did you have any? Thank you. Okay, let's go to consent calendar. Anybody have anything on consent calendar?
1 second here.
Nothing?
Nope.
I got anything to the public on consent calendar? My gosh, this is a miracle. Bring it back to the board.
Move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Okay, we have a first by Brett, a second by Max. Call for the vote, please.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Yes. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Okay, public comment?
I got one.
Okay.
If you don't mind, there's the CAL FIRE's giving away free smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, and it's actually today. It's down here at the. Oh no, it's not either. I'm sorry. Yes, it is. It's at no, it's not. Station 8, and at from 11 to 1 today. It's actually on 417, and then the station and course code on 41 is from 4 to 7, and they're free. So they're all up there. So I don't know if anybody up there can go by and get them, but I put it also on Facebook. So and it was in the paper. So it's really a good thing because state law now you got to have a carbon monoxide alarm. So. Thank you.
Is it just in your area, Tom, or can we get them? Can we get them in the city of Madera too?
I think so. You know, Matt?
Any?
I'd have to look into that, but they were provided by the state for the state responsibility area, so they were focusing on that area.
Oh.
They left over actually.
Okay. Thank you. Any other public?
I think does Rhonda have to read the admonition or admonishment for the public comment portion?
Okay.
I don't think she read that part yet.
Did you?
Tom jumped in front of her.
Oh, John. Okay. Go ahead. Read the public comments.
The first,
Good catch.
the first 15 minutes of each regular session is set aside for members of the public to comment on any item within the jurisdiction of the board but not appearing on the agenda. Items presented under public comment may not be discussed or acted upon by the board at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public is invited to comment at the time the item is called for consideration by the board. Any person addressing the board under public comment will be limited to a 3-minute presentation to ensure that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. Also, all persons addressing the board must state their name and county of residence for the record.
Joseph?
Good morning. Joseph Shadwan, Madera County. This morning, at about 7:02 our time, so about 10:02 Washington time, our president submitted a proposal to Congress to close the military prison in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. According to the BBC, the prison costs the United States $445 million annually. The Pentagon is proposing to transfer the remaining 91 detainees either to their home countries or to U.S. military or civilian prisons. Just in general, because Congress is predominantly Republican, it is expected that this proposal will fail. Personally, I think it should fail. But it really doesn't matter what I want. But I thought I would go ahead and make sure you knew about it, so that if anything happens, we're not blindsided. Thank you very
Joseph.
much.
Thank you, Joseph.
Next. State name and address, please.
Pardon me?
State name and address, please.
I will. My name is Bart Topping. I'm from 50998 Road 210 in O'Neill's, which is in Madera County. I come to you today, before you today, as Vice Chair of the Chowchilla Tribal Organization. I've been here before, recognize most of you, but I want to be on record as saying that the Chowchilla Tribal Organization will be opposing the proposed OHV park on or near Black Hawk Mountain in the future. But the main reason I came today is I want to, in during research for this project, I want to bring up this resolution number 146 that was passed on November 3rd by this board. In researching, I've found a glitch. There's a parcel number in here that I couldn't match up, and with the parcel maps, and it ends up it's a number of adjoining property or adjoining person's property that's not included, that should not be included in this sale. And actually, as I went to the assessor's office, they told me that it's an inactive parcel. It was some years back made inactive and split into 4 separate other parcels. So I thought I should bring it before this board. It probably needs to be corrected in this resolution. And I would ask that possibly in a future public or a future regular meeting that it be an agendized item, so that correction could be made. Actually, if it stays the way it is, the county would be buying a parcel that doesn't even exist. So I just wanted to bring that up to the board. Thank you.
Thanks, Bart.
Thank you, Bart.
Next.
Good morning. My name is Irene Waltz, and my family has been indigenous resident of this area for many, many years. I live here in Madera County. I would like to go on record in that the off-road vehicle project that's proposed on Highway 41 is not indigenous land to the Mono tribe. I am a direct lineal descendant of Mary Lewis, and that parcel of land has been used in documents in favor, number one, of the casino on 41, and it has also been reflected, I believe, in the proposed property for use of the off-road vehicle for Highway 41. I'm a direct lineal descendant of Mary Lewis, and I am not Mono Indian. If individuals are going to state lands used for proposed sites, please use it directly and correctly. I urge Madera residents to understand the history of Madera County and who the residents are here and indigenous groups of individuals that truly belong in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you. Okay. Let's start with the regular session. Okay.
County Administration Department and Sheriff's Coroner's Department, Madera County Morgue Project. 1, discussion and consideration of entering into an agreement with Mortec Manufacturing Company, Inc. in the amount of $104,326.32 for the purchase and installation of morgue equipment for the new Madera County Morgue Project. 2, discussion and consideration of approval of transfer of appropriations number 15-064 in the amount of $39,000, transfer from new sheriff facility buildings and improvements to operating transfers out capital projects for fiscal year 2015-16. 3, discussion and consideration of approval of transfer appropriations number 15-063 in the amount of $90,000, transfer from county building fund appropriation for contingency to operating transfers out capital projects for fiscal year 2015-16. 4, discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue number 15-065 in the amount of $129,000 derived from the new sheriff's project and county building fund to be appropriated to the morgue project, building and improvements and equipment, furniture, $5,000. 4 votes required.
Jay?
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'll address the overall need for this. I think you recall that last year we had an issue with our morgue provider that was a private company here in the city of Madera. Since then, we've been partnering with Merced County to provide morgue and mortuary services for those folks that have to be either physically taken custody of by us or that actually have to be examined by us. In terms of how this project has to go forward, we have leased space in the city of Madera. We did look at some county sites that would have needed significant renovation prior to leasing a site. It is fairly convenient to the existing sheriff's office, but for the project to go forward, we have to have this equipment from Mortec approved first, and Mortec is one of the leading providers of this kind of equipment in California. However, they will not, it's not an off-the-shelf kind of thing. They build what you need when you order it, and they won't build it until they actually have a purchase order from you to build it. And, of course, if they're not building it, we can't, and by we I mean mostly Luz's project manager and Maria as the representative from County Administrative Office, finish the budget. We have a very good estimate in terms of what this will cost. Fortunately, the overall project is a prevailing wage project because it has capital improvements and it's a government project. But the expense here, we have gone to Kings County and to Stanislaus County, who have built new standalone morgue facilities within the past 12 months, both of which used Mortec as a vendor and spoke very highly of them. We had a little going back and forth about the particular quote just because there were specifics that had to be addressed as it related to what we wanted in the building and our particular building. However, we feel confident that this is the best vendor to get the equipment from, and it is a California vendor.
Move to approve.
Second. I have a question before we go to approval. Okay, so now we've leased the building for 10 years. We have a 3% annual increase after the 10 years, and now we're putting TIs into a leased building. That's, it's the way that the private sector would go, and I like that. The only thing that I have is basically for the taxpayers is what do we have when we're done with all this. We'll continue that building and be leasing it for
There's a couple of different options here, Mr. Chairman. Should the property owner ever determine that they would like to sell that building, and should we decide that we wish to go to a different facility, the Mortec equipment in this part of the county's consideration for this project can be disassembled and moved to a new facility.
So this is one of those fold-up?
Well, it's not really fold-up, but it is literally, if this is approved, Mortec will build this to the specifications provided to them, and they will come out and assemble it. So it can be disassembled and moved to another location. And throughout this project, what we've tried to do is really minimize any permanent improvements that we can't take with us should 10 years from now we decide to go to a different facility.
So we have the land in back of the sheriff's office right now, and so in 10 years from now we can analyze that and see if it's better to build and go forward instead of continue the lease. And then the equipment that we're putting in here is basically transferable, easy.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you. Anybody from the public?
I myself have personally taken a big refrigerator box from one place and moved
So you can
to
put your pizza dough?
I do my pizza there, so I'm sure that Mortec will be able to do it if I can do it.
Okay. Okay, bring it back to board.
You already have a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do you have a second?
Yep, I second it.
Okay, Brett first, Tom second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers? Yes. Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay. 6B.
Sheriff Coroner's Department, discussion and consideration of entering into an agreement with Lexipol in the amount of approximately $12,960 per year for use of subscription material.
I'm back. On this particular item, the Lexapol product is one that's been around for about 16 or 17 years now. Many of your municipalities use it, and they use it by entering into a cooperative agreement in their risk management authorities. So in our area here, basically from Bakersfield through Modesto, everyone uses this manual, and the reason that they use it is it has a number of things that are very beneficial. One is it's their responsibility to keep it updated. So let's say that if Joseph had brought forward today a Supreme Court decision that affected us, Lexapol would already be working to change the policies as they represent themselves in our manual. It's all done electronically, and it's downloaded in a fashion to where we basically always have the best practices in our policy manual. Your existing sheriff's manual has sections in it that are up to 15 to 17 years old, and rather than staff a person to constantly be keeping up with this, we feel that this is, although a substantial cost per year, it is a wise cost. The other thing that this allows us to do is there is a second part of the manual process which is called daily training bulletins. So basically what would happen is each day, they come out on a monthly basis. We approve them to make sure that they don't have anything in them that might not be appropriate. So when I used to actually edit these, I would usually look like at the names, because I wouldn't want there to be a name in there that was like a real county citizen that we all knew in the particular scenario that they put forth. And what they're designed to test is, and to reinforce, is the deputy's knowledge and the most important policies, the ones that get us sued, frankly, if we violate them. So in the long run, I think this will more than pay for itself in terms of having an excellent product, a product that's defendable, and one that coincides with those law enforcement partners around us that work with us. It's not exactly the same as everyone else's, but in terms of dovetailing, it's an excellent product. I've used it for 11 years elsewhere.
So it'll make the department run more efficient?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Anybody from the public?
I move we approve items 6B.
Second. We have a first and a second. Tom first, Brett second. Motion?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay. 6C.
Board of Supervisors, Madera County Legislative Platform. 1, presentation on the 2016 legislative cycle from Paul Yoder, County Lobbyist. 2, discussion and consideration of approval of the 2016 Madera County Legislative Platform.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Robert Jeffers, Chief of Staff for District 3. Up here we also have the Chiefs of Staff for District 4 and 5, Letty Gonzalez, Brittany Dyer, and Paul Yoder, our county lobbyist. Today we want to bring you an update on the 2016 platform. It's been updated, or our goal is to update this with our current legislative needs on a periodic basis. We started solicitation for this update in mid-December. We've reached out to all of our department heads, kept that process open through mid-January with the goal to bring it to you at the end of January. However, to try and coordinate a presentation with our lobbyists, we decided today would be a better day to do that. So far, we only have 2 items that are being added. One is an item on the cultivation use of marijuana. In short, no matter which direction California goes, we simply state that we would prefer local control for any and all issues related to marijuana, whether it's prohibition, regulation, licensing, or taxation. And as well, we've added a section on tree mortality, which the board has already been briefed on. We're available to answer any questions you might have, but at this time, we'd like to turn it over to Paul to give you an update on the 2016 legislative cycle.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Good morning, board members. Great to see you all. So, talk briefly about the budget, if that's okay, although I know it's a little over a month old, but I do think it's important just to hit some high points because things have frankly already changed. So the governor has a lot more money, frankly, than he knows what to do with coming in when he was putting the budget together. But I think to his credit, much to the majority party's frustration in the legislature, the governor is proposing that overwhelmingly the money that has come in or that is projected to come in should go to one-time expenses. And specifically, the governor's proposed to put $2 billion more into reserves, even above and beyond what's required now under the Constitution and the so-called Rainy Day Initiative. He's also proposing to shore up the state teachers' retirement account and PERS to the tune of $8 billion one time, $2.5 billion to STIRS, $5.5 billion into PERS. He's also, thirdly, proposing that he get caught up on some deferred maintenance at the state level. So you add all that up, that's a little over $10 billion in one-time spending. The majority party absolutely in the legislature would prefer that at least a fraction of that go to ongoing programs, and that's going to be a lot of the tension that we're going to see going forward in the negotiations on the state budget. In the area of health and welfare, I'm happy to say that the governor is proposing to fully fund Medi-Cal administration for the counties. He's also proposing to fully fund a bill that he signed last year that a lot of us were worried about. That's AB 403 that had to do with basically really reworking how we deal with foster care group homes in California going forward and phasing those out. Potential costs of the counties, and the governor's proposed $60 million already to fund those effects. In the area of justice, a little disappointment there. This was the first year that we were going to see money proposed to fund Prop 47 related services. The legislative analyst has estimated that the savings are really closer to $100 million. The governor, unfortunately, so far has only proposed to budget $30 million to the counties. So we will absolutely be working on that. Want to stop and pause and just sort of underscore the cap and trade proposal that the governor has made. There's $3.1 billion that he's proposing to appropriate in the budget process. In addition to that $3.1 billion, he is proposing to hold $500 million in reserve. So there's actually $3.6 billion available to the legislature and the governor to appropriate for cap and trade. One of the more interesting, and I'm happy to talk more about cap and trade in detail if you have questions. But one of the more interesting proposals I think that folks are looking at, new proposals for cap and trade, is the governor's proposing that 5% of the monies go directly to disadvantaged communities in California. No real competitive process, just a sort of jurisdiction by jurisdiction allocation. Want the board to know we've actually asked the administration would they be open to, within a geographic boundary, like communities pooling their funds and putting them towards, say, one project in one year and another project in another year, sort of like governments do in the COG processes or in the STIP transportation process. And I do think the Brown administration is open to that, maybe get some things done faster if folks can coordinate locally that way. Legislatively, and then I'll take some questions. I want the board and the public to know that there are 1,500 new pieces of legislation.
1,500?
1,500, give or take, Supervisor. Introduced as of Friday, much to my wife and my children's chagrin. That's pretty much what I did this past weekend, is going through those. What we do for our county clients is we break all the new legislation down by subject, and we provide these lists to your staff. CSAC sort of groups things in really large headings, health and welfare, transportation. We break it down a little bit more discreetly. I think it makes it a little, and both processes have their merits, but it makes it a little bit easier, hopefully, for your staff to farm those things out to department heads, to you. And if you've got an interest in aging bills, you don't have to look through all the health and welfare bills. You can just go to aging. If you have an interest in fracking-related legislation, groundwater-related legislation, every one of those has its own discrete list. So 1,500 new bills. On the natural, probably a little less than half of those will get to the governor. And Governor Brown, in his third and his fourth terms, has averaged about a 15% veto rate. So you would assume that 85% of half of the 1,500 may actually become law. So that's a couple hundred bills. We're going to try to track every single one of them that might have a county impact. And you'll obviously let us know how we do it as far as that goes, and probably grade us at the end of the year. But we're okay with that. And so those are the high points that I wanted to hit today, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have today.
Is it not working?
No, it's not. It's not working.
The board's not working.
So one of the things, and you mentioned STIP, and we were at our MCTC meeting last week.
Yeah.
They're deleting $754 million in funding, but he's saving this reserve, but we're not putting any money towards programs that are already in, and then he has more money than he knows what to do with, but then we're going out for a new transportation tax. If you can enlighten me on
And I do this a lot, and I do like to say for the public's benefit because I believe I'm working for them, right, as well as you. The California Transportation Commission, well, let me back up. Because of the price of gas going down, that has a consequence. And what the consequence is that excise gas tax revenue in California is going down commensurately. California Transportation Commission very recently said that is so true that they have to revise their state transportation improvement program estimates downward by about $850 million. And they listed projects in a lot of counties that would be affected. There are two in Madera County. They're both on Highway 99. Both have to do with widening projects. I think one's a widening and one is maybe an interchange project. They may both be widening projects.
They're both widening.
They're both widening, yeah. And so that is happening. I did not mention yet the two special sessions of the legislature, one on health care, one on transportation. And these things are all getting intertwined, Supervisor. The example I will give you is the legislature this week is the governor's still hoping that they would vote on a new managed care organization tax, or MCO tax. And that is reinstituting a sort of per patient charge in a lot of the hospitals in California, and sort of at the same time giving them some corporate tax breaks. And it is a package. I mean, a true package. There's a lot of moving parts. What we heard yesterday was in anticipation of a vote on Thursday on that, is that a lot of the Republican members, because it is a two-thirds vote bill, and they do need Republican votes in addition to Democratic votes, so some of the Republican members were actually asking for a fix, if you will, on this STIP issue and on some of the transportation loan repayment issues. And I think there was initially a little bit of pushback. I appreciate the board indulging me so much on it, but it is kind of complicated, and there's a lot going on in Sacramento right now. There was a little bit of pushback, and the pushback was, no, the health care, the MCO tax bill should just sort of be in a silo, and it should be treated on its own. But then I think the governor, I will say, perhaps to his credit, has realized that he needs to, if he ever wants to get the transportation deal done this year, he does need a bridge to that. And if you can't get the two-thirds vote for the health care tax, then really I don't think the expectations are very high that there's going to be something happening on transportation. So I think another part, last thing, another part of your question, Supervisor, was there's all this money. And there absolutely is a discussion in Sacramento right now about utilizing some of that one-time money to shore up the transportation system, maybe in lieu of a new transportation tax this year, or maybe as part of a package that would include a lower tax increase instead of the one that is currently on the table. So I hope I touched on all the points there, and if I didn't, let me know.
Yeah, I think what Robert had showed with the levels of income. It started dipping when people started going to more fuel efficient cars.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden this year, when they're trying to pass this tax, it went from like $5 billion to like $2.5 billion. Is that? Do you see it as is it like a scare tactic? They're trying to push it to the locals to try and get us to put pressure on our legislators to pass that tax?
I don't think if your question is what the California Transportation Commission did, is that a scare tactic? I don't think it is. It is a fact that Saudi Arabia and a couple other countries have been flooding international oil markets with cheap oil. And that has, even in California, with all the additional regulations we have that make gas more expensive, that has had the consequence of lowering the price of gas. And the way the tax works is, if gas costs less, there's just less tax revenue, and adjustments are made pursuant to state law. So, in fact, as I was driving down here, one of our other lobbyists emailed me that they may drop the excise tax even further, just because I don't think we've really reached bottom yet in the lowering of the price of per gallon of crude internationally. So that we're sort of right now we're dealing with what is happening on really truly a global stage. For that to happen and come alongside as the governor was trying to do this transportation package, I don't think that's anything the governor and his staff really planned on as they were putting it together. And so that has further complicated getting a deal, absolutely. But I do think that money that's coming in, you're going to see not just the two Republican caucuses. I think there are members of the two Democratic caucuses with all that money and with the governor proposing to spend it on one-time expenditures who may say, you know what, maybe we don't put an extra $2 billion into the rainy day fund. Maybe we put $1 billion in. Maybe we don't shore up PERS and STIRS to the tune of $8 billion. Maybe we shore them up to the tune of $6 billion. Presto, look what I just did. In a public meeting, I just found $3 billion to put into the transportation system. And I do think the members of the legislature are going to want to have that conversation with the governor.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I think some of the things that complicate the idea of a tax on transportation would be the over expenditures of Caltrans, $500 million a year estimated by the LAO, unnecessarily spent, and then of course 65% of their projects coming in over budget. We're not getting the bang for our buck out of Caltrans, that's for sure, to the tune of billions. And then one of the things I think I'd like to point out is that in Madera County, 35% of our bridges are structurally deficient. In the state of California in general, we're reaching a saturation level where $6 trillion worth of infrastructure in bridges alone, not including roads, is structurally deficient. When you reach that level of public safety catastrophe, I don't know what amount of $1 billion is like a drop in the bucket for $6 trillion. I mean, at some point we got to start addressing the major issue here of infrastructure that's declining, and of course then you get into all infrastructure in general. Water infrastructure, road infrastructure, and of course bridges. And we are just behind the 8 ball, and I don't know where they're going to start dealing with this, but at some point it needs to be dealt with because it's going to become a big priority at some point.
Max?
Just a aside here. Next time you see the governor, you tell him we want the heavy maintenance yard in Madera County. Okay?
Okay. Understood.
Tom?
Yeah, I got this flyer, road charge, and the first thing on the first page, it shows that what you guys were talking about, the drop in our fuel tax decrease, and it's really dropped compared to what we were getting. And what's really neat about it, they got the average annual cost of select items a person pays, and when they start talking about paying too much for gas taxes. Every person pays on their cable per year $1,032, a cell phone $852, coffee $780, but I don't drink coffee, so it ain't me. The internet $540, and the average person pays only $368 for the gas taxes per year. So, and how they're going to do this now? I mean, the gas tax, I don't think it's going to do it. They got to go after these guys, like these guys drive these funny cars that's on electric and fuel savings and all that stuff. They got to go after them some way and make that difference up with the cars that's doing just as much damage on these roads as they are with the other. At the air board meeting last week, they were talking about putting in these big trucks. It's all electrical, and they got a big dollars for it from somewheres to buy these. And the first thing I ask is, how are they going to pay for the roads? They're just still as heavy, and they're probably heavier with those electric motors compared to a regular motor. How are they going to be paying for the damage on the roads?
Right. May I through the chair? I just want to say I'm doing my part, driving my GM vehicle up and down the valley.
Me too.
Yeah, but I do want to note the governor and the two chairs of the transportation committees in the legislature, Senator Bell and Assemblymember Frazier, all three of them have they are absolutely in agreement that they want to put an annual fee on electric vehicles, and basically vehicles that wouldn't otherwise really be sort of paying into the system.
Still damaging our road.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
Those electric vehicles are real light cars, so it doesn't damage them as much as a truck. But anyway, it's kind of an oxymoron. They force you to sell junkers and everything else, and a couple of years ago, and they force you to buy more economic cars. They force the automakers to make more economic cars, and then they wonder why their taxes, went down. So anyway, it's kind of a funny situation. But I just want to thank you guys and thank our staff, Chief of Staff, for keeping up what's going on in Madera County. That's what's important, I think, to us. The state, they can do what they, but anything that has to do with us, as a county, I really appreciate the work that the staff and Paul, that you've done for us. We've never had this kind of before until you came on board a couple of years ago, so I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Can I, Mr. Chairman, I just want to say your remarks reflect, you've got a great team, but your staff's been just phenomenal to work with. They really have, and it's been, a pleasure. So thank you. And thank you for letting our firm still represent this county.
Does any of the chiefs of staff have anything to say? Just presentation. Keep it down to 5 minutes, please.
I would just say thank you to Paul. We're in regular communication, and we update this document as needed. It is a living document, so if there's ever anything that we see that needs to come to you guys, we'll bring it then.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Betty, anything to say?
Okay.
Thank you.
Presentation only? Correct?
Shut up, boss.
So, did need a
Let's go to
direction as to whether or not to approve the updates to the platform.
Okay, we have to consider approval on any updates. Okay, let's make a motion to approve the updates.
I move.
Second. Okay, Tom and Max, first and second. Vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay, let's go to the 10 o'clock hearing. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
And staff.
Public Works and Community and Economic Development Departments. First hearing to consider an ordinance amending Chapter 13.55 of the Madera County Code pertaining to water conservation and direct staff to implement Stage 3 conditions in an applicable county-operated community water systems that currently meet demand. Waive the reading and set the second hearing for March 1, 2016.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Norman Allender here with Amado Kayat from Public Works. We'd like to go over just briefly some of the tweaks that were made to this. As you know, going back to 2014, there's been a resolution proclaiming existence of a local drought. The governor in April 2015 did a statewide mandate of across the board 20% for the state. We were considered an urban water supplier serving more than 3,000 connections because even though we had discontiguous districts, they looked at us as one. I can report to you today that Phil Toller and some other folks from Public Works under Ahmad's leadership petitioned the state and have been for some while, and we have not made this a big publication yet, but we have been redesignated from an urban water supplier, mandating 36% to a small community water system. Basically, each individual district will be looked at on its own, and they will have to do a 25% reduction.
Good
job.
That is changed. Now, I can tell you in the aggregate, the county achieved already the 25%. However, the rules have changed, and I think for the better. We already monitor each district and then aggregate them. We will now monitor each district and tell each district what their consumption is or isn't, and each CSA or MD itself would be fined by the state if they don't meet it, and we wouldn't be fined countywide. So that's one thing that we can report here today. However, it doesn't change our recommendation here today. So what you have before you is some tweaks to the county's ordinance. And the reason why we made the changes was the ordinance as structured didn't have a provision for a one-day-a-week only watering. It had Stage 1 and Stage 2 were fairly similar, but still allowed 2 days a week. Stage 3 was not congruent with that, and then 3.5 was more restrictive, and Stage 4 was no watering. What we did was Stage 1 is the voluntary conservation and different rules. Stage 2 is now the difference is 1 day a week only within the district's watering. Stage 3 is 2 days a week within the district's watering. Stage 3.5 is still what it is, drip only. And then stage 4 would be no watering at all, outside watering, I apologize, within county maintained water districts. The recommendation before you today is to go to stage 2, which would be 1 day a week with only within districts, which is consistent with the City of Madera and the City of Fresno's program, which we think is good because that brings consistency to folks, and there's an equity issue with that, right? So that it's the same, especially if you're across the street, say from a city water system, and you have a different watering requirement. So a little bit of good news in this, as we were putting together these ordinance changes to go to 1 day a week, and that's our recommendation. We were redesignated by the state, which is good news. I don't think we need to back off at all. I think we need to continue to have the same amount of conservation on our mind. It's too important. You know, just because we may or may not have met our goals doesn't mean we can't always do better. So our recommendation today is to go to stage 3, which allows 1 day a week watering. And I think I may have said it backwards, and I know Ahmad's shaking his head. So I always say this backwards. Stage 1 is voluntary. Stage 2 is 2 days a week. Stage 3 is 1 day a week. Stage 3.5 is drip only. Stage 4 is no watering. So those are the basic stages. There are other things that go along with it, like increased enforcement and other things, and it's in your backup. So that's the staff presentation here today. We will come back for a second reading. I will tell you there was one minor tweak I'll bring up with County Council. It's just a minor thing, but it says when you go to stage 2, it includes everything from stage 1, and when you go to stage 3, it's everything from stage 2, except for the following. I think we may want to add that word because there may be just a minor clarification. It's very, very minor, 1 or 2 words, and I wanted to point that out. I don't see any reason to restart the process over it. So other than that, staff recommendation is 1 day a week watering, which is stage 3. Thank you.
Tom? Yeah, I think we're crazy doing that. You know, we started out good this year, and we had 115, 120% snowpack up. It's back down to 90 now, melting like a racehorse. And everything you read, it's not getting any better, and I think we should keep it at a 3, even at 3.5, like I wanted last time, but we didn't get it done. And I'm ready to make a motion to keep it at 3.
Brett, I just wanted to know so when we're doing this to 3, because I know we had to write a whole new ordinance to be able to get it to 3. Does this allow for flexibility as there's
so yes, sir. The flexibility exists.
Take it down to 2 just
by direction to staff. So right now, what we're doing is amending the ordinance to reflect ability to do 1 day a week, 2 day a week watering, 1 day a week, 0 or drip only or 0.
Okay,
so in this
we don't have to change something different for each time we want to do it. We can go all over the place.
We're setting this up, yes, sir, so we don't have to do ordinance changes every time we may want to tweak it. So when we do our second reading, we will have the ordinance in place. The staff recommendation today is to go to the new stage 3, which is 1 day a week only within districts. That's it. The board, when we do our second reading, can change that. The board can change it at every meeting if it wants to. I would not recommend that. But so once we have the ordinances in place, it becomes a board direction. We want to go from stage 1 to stage 2 or stage 2 to stage 4. So you have total control with when we change the stages.
And then also on that, to drill down, individual water districts that need to conserve more, we can do them individually, or does it have to then be a broad stroke? So
no, we will, because of the new classification from the state, it will no longer be the broad stroke for everybody. It will be each individual district. Yes.
But this one today would be a broad stroke across all districts.
Well, no, the amount of water you can use, or the number of days you can use, would be consistent across all districts. Whether or not they were achieving their goals would be individual within the district.
So today would be across all the districts, but if we needed to,
you could change.
We could change in an individual district using this, and it wouldn't change it for all districts.
So let's suppose we come back in a few months, and there's one specific district that is, not only, not meeting it, is just way exceeding it, right? The board has the authority to put specific restrictions on that district only and say, just like we have now, certain districts are in 3.5 and certain districts are not. And so if in the future you decide that a specific district wasn't meeting their goals, I don't believe the staff has the authority to make that change unilaterally. We would come to the board and say District X is not meeting its goal, And we're not saying 26%, you know, they're way, way off, and then we would suggest they go to maybe 3.5 or something like that. Yes.
Just wanted to make sure there's the
Yes.
ability.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Supervisors, Mr. Chairman. So basically, this will give us one additional option to deal with our districts. We do, like Norm said, we look at each district individually, and depending on the need and their conservation level, we can come and impose a different watering schedule. And also, this will also give us and give code enforcement the ability to penalize violators. So we cannot impose something first that's not in the ordinance, and then this will specify what is the penalty.
It also has the ability to relieve.
Absolutely.
The code, it can go backwards and.
Depending on the usage per district at this point.
Is this eliminating 3.5?
No.
No, sir. I'm sorry. Stage 3.5, which is drip only, still exists in that format, yes.
Okay.
The only change was
The way
to.
you said a while ago, you said 1 is something, and you went to 4. You didn't even stop at 3.5, so.
I must have misspoke. So there's a stage 1, which is voluntary, different one.
Right.
Stage 2, which has different requirements, but the big one is 2 days a week only.
Right.
Stage 3 is watering 1 day a week only and other requirements. Stage 3.5 is drip only
Right.
with other requirements. Stage 4 is no outdoor watering.
So, and the city right now is on stage 2?
They're on stage 3, which is 1 day a week. City of Madera and City of Fresno are 1 day a week, yes.
So you want us to go to stage 2, you said?
No, I want you to go to stage 3, which is 1 day a week. That's my recommendation.
You said stage 2.
He did on accident the first time.
Correct.
Okay, well, that's what I thought.
That's my mistake.
Then a mod
Supervisor.
corrected him.
Then the mod straightened it out. You know what? To tell you the truth, and that's why Ahmad and Regina are laughing. I have been saying this wrong every time I say it, so perhaps I shouldn't be. I need to get myself
Let
together.
Ahmad do it.
Yeah, okay. Stage 3 is the recommendation of 1 day a week. That's our recommendation right now. We have to come back for a second hearing, Supervisor, and when we come then, again, that will finalize the ordinance, and then
You change the ordinance, but you're adding what we want to do right now for what stage it's going to be. But the ordinance is going to be the same. I mean, it'll be the new ordinance, what we got now with these new.
Yes, sir. So the big change to the ordinance is we're adding an option of 1 day a week. That's the big change, which we didn't have before.
Okay.
And we have
Yes,
to
sir.
add it because.
And then,
So we
once,
should add it separately.
I apologize.
We should have it separately. We should have changed the ordinance, and then we could have put another item on here and said, now we're going to go to the stage 3.
You could do it separately, or you could do it as one
I mean,
item.
we could have done it a lot easier. That way it wouldn't have been so mixed up, I don't think.
Okay. I think this is simpler, actually, but I apologize.
I'm an Okie, and I had a hard time getting it through his head.
Norman,
Yes, sir.
Parkwood,
Yes, sir.
they are also included in stage 3?
Every district is included in this recommendation, which would allow 1 day a week. Yes, that is every district. And I've been very cautious with Parkwood and MD10, or the two that are more restrictive. If changing this puts any funding in jeopardy, I'll be right back in front of the board explaining that to you, because we wouldn't want to do something that allows outdoor watering that affects funding.
Right.
Okay. County Council?
Question. Stage 3 can't actually be implemented until the ordinance goes into effect.
You're right, County Council, and so to clarify for Tom's point, or Supervisor Wheeler's point of view, you don't have to decide today to be on stage 3. You don't have to make that decision. When you come back
You
for this,
added it to this one now. I mean, that's.
well, yeah, what we did is,
That's what I'm saying.
well, we changed the ordinance. The last hearing we had, we gave the options, and the board said change the ordinance so we have the broader set of options. Today, before you have the first reading of the ordinance change, and the next meeting we'll have the second reading of the ordinance change. I had staff put our preference in there of where we would land.
Stand right now.
Yeah. Where we would land. As it stands today, all districts are on 2 days a week except for MD10 and MD19, which are on 3.5 drip only. That's current. And that won't change unless that. So I apologize if throwing in that extra direction convoluted things, but clearly all we're doing is changing the ordinance, and then we're receiving direction of where you want to go there, just so that the public and us will know, so that maybe if somebody has an issue with it, they will come to us.
So Regina should say, then we should say we change our ordinance, and we move also to go to stage 3 on the new ordinance.
Yeah, the motion before you is to consider the first hearing and waive the reading and set the second hearing, and also direct staff to implement stage 3. You can remove the direction to staff and wait until the
I
second
make that
hearing?
motion, what you said first, to waive the reading and
Direct
set the
staff?
second hearing at March. We can do it after we get done with it, and then set the stage 3 thing.
Then that's what's before you today.
That's staff recommendation, sir, yes.
And it wouldn't go into effect until 30 days after the second hearing is when the ordinance would go into effect. So that's when staff would actually implement and enforce that direction.
You second that, Matt?
We need to go to public. First.
Second?
Anybody from the public? Bring it back to the board.
One final item just to say is Norm and I will discuss when it comes back for second hearing, there might be that typographical correction where.
I think it should be, to make it clear, because we're changing that ordinance, and we don't want to set it in there like that ordinance is saying right now is 3 forever, because I think it'd be better that we're going to have the next item say, we're going to set the
Absolutely.
3 now.
Yeah, absolutely, Supervisor. We would not in the ordinance be doing that. One is the ordinance, the other is staff, direction to staff of what to implement. Yes, sir.
Right, options. Okay, back to the board. Tom?
Yeah, I made the motion, Max
I
second.
second. Second, okay. Tom first, Max second. Bring it to vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay, let's, our next speaker, we need to take a break before our next speaker comes up on 6E, so, thank you. We got three here. Let's-
Up in Merced. Yeah.
Mr. Miller, please sit down. CL, thank you. Okay, let's go to 6D.
6D, Madera County Film Commission, presentation by David Wolin, Madera County Film Commission, on the 2015 activities of the Film Commission.
Mr. Wallen?
I might wait for all these folks to get back.
That's
to
okay.
work here.
Let's go.
Dave Wolin, Director of the Madera County Film Commission from Oakhurst. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Rhonda, Eric, Regina, I'm here today to report on the 2015 activities of the Film Commission. This is a shorter version of the same presentation that I give every year to the State Film Commission in L.A., promoting Madera County as a film location, showcasing what we have to offer to the film and advertising industries. With locations, of course, we all know, ranging from valley farms and small towns and mountain roads, forests, lakes, rivers, and Yosemite National Park. This past year, we did 14 projects in Madera County, most in the Sierra National Forest, another 18 in Yosemite National Park, and generated an estimated $1 million in Madera County. You might notice that number being It was another tough year. Fires, smoke, and probably $1 million that we lost in canceled projects. Some of this had to do with press in major market areas in Los Angeles and San Francisco that claimed we were smoked out when we weren't, or there were fires 50 miles away, and actually some of the big fires burning in Fresno County impacted eastern Madera County sometimes, sometimes not. But these folks are on tight schedules, so they went to Colorado or someplace where they could be sure of clean air. A half dozen car commercials that I have lined up actually all moved to other states. And the same thing happened with photo shoots and documentary filming. That being said, some examples of what we did accomplish, RV Life magazine photo shoot at Bass Lake, and a lot of car commercials. You probably know I'm well connected in the automobile industry, and I pestered them a lot to come here. Going back a number of years ago, I'm not sure where that photo ever went, but we did an Audi commercial on the old Italian Bar Bridge after those folks were run out of another national forest. Our national forest here was very cooperative. And there was a national photo with Audi. Everybody liked it. But here we did Jaguar and Mercedes and Dodge trucks and so on and so on.
And that bridge is coming out. You know, they're replacing it now with the
I saw
two-laner.
photos of it. It won't be quite as attractive as a bridge, but probably better to drive on.
Yeah.
Still photo shoots with Nissan and Audi. And interesting, for those of you who remember DeLorean, the car from the Back to the Future movies, they're building them again as replicas and shot a lot of photos here. And actually, the photo shoot attracted a lot of attention. People thought it was a movie shoot, and some people thought it was John DeLorean selling drugs in order to finance his car business. Remember that story. And Jeep, of course, we've always done some Jeep stuff here again. We had them driving through the mud. That was up near Chiquito Creek somewhere, actually. Discovery Channel, and many of these, like these mountain climbing documentaries, Eastern Madera County mountains double for the Himalayas and the Andes. And I kind of like going out with them. We get to a lot of interesting places. A&E the same way. Some of this we filmed in the National Park, and some of it filmed up on Shut-Eye Peak and places like that. Numerous other documentaries, Discovery Channel, and Yosemite National Park, the San Joaquin River Gorge. This year, dams and droughts were popular things on Discovery and National Geographic, and History and A&E. We did some feature films, too, in the fields. I have no idea what it was about, but they shot some of it here. 25 people stayed in hotels for a week and bought gas and bought food, and that was the important thing. The Road Within, another one shot some up in the upper reaches of eastern Madera County, the rest in the national park. And you know, actually I was just telling Brittany the story. The fact is, when they film in the national park, all these people come from Southern California. They have lunch, they buy gas, sometimes they stay in Oakhurst, sometimes they continue on and stay in another county. But everybody who works in the national park lives in Madera County, so it kind of works out for us no matter what. The kayak movie, another bizarre thing. If you guys are kayakers, maybe you've done this sort of thing. All I cared about was, again, 25 people stayed in hotels, and they bought gas and had lunch. Yosemite the movie, which is a drama, not a documentary, most of it's filmed in the Sierra National Forest. It's difficult to do a lot of things in the national park. There's 4 million people there every year, and it's difficult. Starred James Franco, won awards at Sundance. It'll be out at theaters soon. Another part of the Yosemite story, of course, Kerry Stainer and the Yosemite murders. However, as long as they mention Madera County in the credits, I think we're doing okay. Casio commercial. Again, you may have seen this. It's run everywhere. And they filmed a batch of that up in the upper reaches of the San Joaquin River Gorge and up in Yosemite. And the Hands fashion shoot, again, you and I don't buy these things perhaps, but if you go to whatever the younger people's clothing stores, you'll find this stuff and this photo everywhere.
My clothing stores.
Yeah, you're probably right. And Pepper Steps, you might remember this match. We've been working on this for many years. A little update on it, the story of the Madera High School wrestling team. We showed a short piece of it a couple of years ago. They're still looking for funding. I'm still hoping it gets made. It will put Madera County on the map, much like McFarland did for that town down the road. The Valley Women's Prison, we do a lot of documentaries there. Right now, there's a crew there. I try and steer them to the Motel 6 at the pilot station. Sometimes they stay in Chowchilla, but somewhere in Madera County, no matter what. And apparently, I've not actually ever been there, but there's a lot of well-known prisoners who, are fond of being interviewed, and I guess they can do that sort of thing. And again, come to town, spend money, buy gas. If you just stay in a few hotel rooms, we're happy. Last year, and this went on, the reason I mention this, because it runs twice a year in prime time still. This was filmed at Fresno Dome and Calvin Crest, and helicopters and a big crew and lots of money spent. Channing Tatum was the star, a guy I actually wouldn't have recognized, maybe you would, but he attracted throngs of young people chasing him around at the Pines while he stayed there. And great advertising for Madera County, certainly. The Bear Grylls Academy is now an ongoing business at Calvin Crest, and they're bringing hundreds of people there every year for survival training. We work on a number of local films. Some of these get to film festivals and things like that, but we try and encourage local productions. The fact is that these folks may well go on to become big-time filmmakers and remember where they started. The best part of what I do, and this is the fun part of it, working location scouts and driving around to remote locations. There's a photo on top of Shut-Eye Peak. If you've not been there, get with Tom. He'll give you a ride up there. It's really a cool place, and you can see not only most of this county, but everything else. It's 8,000 feet up there at the top. Popular location. We've had, Toyota pickup trucks and all kinds of things up there in the past. And news crews, of course, whenever there's something going on, whether it be a fire or landslide or just some kind of news, we try and accommodate them, try and make sure that they mention Madera County or mention Madera or Chowchilla or Oakhurst, wherever they happen to be. No such thing as bad PR in my business, I think, anyway. Oprah, you might remember this again from a couple of years ago. It keeps rerunning. And, she went to Yosemite, camped for at least a few hours, stopped and bought gas at an Oakhurst gas station. It was all filmed. 80 million viewers, 4 episodes, the best exposure we've ever gotten from any kind of television show. And it just runs over and over and over again. And every time it runs, they mention buying gas at Oakhurst. Again, no such thing as bad PR. I go to a lot of industry trade shows. This year we were at Cinegear at Paramount, the California On Location show in Santa Monica, the Film in California conference at CBS, the ASCI location show at the LA Convention Center. And while we didn't win anything this year at the California On Location Awards, you might remember a number of years ago, Bonnie Holiday was nominated as Best Government Official. And didn't win. I don't remember why, but she got a nice plaque or whatever anyway. And hopefully, Rhonda, you'll be in the running here in a year or two. It's very difficult to be the best government official when you're buried and doing all this other day-to-day work. Some of these folks don't have as much to do. We do a FAM tour every year for location scouts in conjunction with Fresno County. And Fresno County pays the bill. This year we went to Raymond, Course Roll, and North Fork. And kind of educate people as to what's up here. One of you, I think it was Rick, mentioned a few years ago you met some people somewhere who thought Madera County was in all the movies, and of course that's not quite true. but we pretend it is. And so all these location scouts not only know the name Yosemite, but we make sure they know the name Madera County, because that's the most important thing. And 4 hours from Hollywood, and so on and so on and so on. We work closely with the State Film Commission. Again, most of the filming that's done in the state of California is done in Los Angeles. It's easier to build Half Dome on a back lot at Warner Brothers than it is to actually come up here. It costs less to do that because the unions have a firm grip on the movie business. And once you get more than 25 miles outside the studio zone, which is outside of basically Hollywood, costs double. So a union truck driver who drives up to Yosemite is making $100 an hour. Not a bad job, by the way. So as a result, we kind of keep ourselves in front of the Film Commission to make sure they know that when you can't duplicate Half Dome, come and see us, because Fresno Dome is unique and right in our backyard. And up near Tom's Cabin, there's a couple of creeks up there we've used for a bunch of things just because you can't duplicate that in the back lot of the studio. We want to make sure, number one, filming is done here, but secondly, it's done in California, and thirdly, it's done in the United States. There's lots of filming done in other countries just because of cost and incentives. And I'm not a big fan, personally, of incentives. You know, you can go to the state of Michigan and they'll pay you to film there. But when you're all done, you're in Michigan. And we like it here. And just kind of a brief recap. We don't do any advertising anymore unless it's free. But I do a quarterly email newsletter, send out a lot of press releases. And our website and Facebook and other social media and the trade shows seem to be the best way to show off the benefits of filming here. Any questions, gentlemen, ladies?
Great job.
Any questions?
Keep up the good work advertising Madera County.
Well, thanks for your time. I'm always available if you need to contact me. And I'm usually here talking about something often. So thank you, sir.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay. 6E.
6C, Community and Economic Development Department, Planning Division. Budget adjustments for Phase 1 of planning studies. 1, discussion and consideration of a transfer appropriations number 15-068 in the amount of $21,000, transfer for Community and Economic Development Planning Division, appropriations for contingencies to operating transfers out for fiscal year 2015-16, 4 votes required. 2, discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue number 15-068 in the amount of $21,000 derived from Community and Economic Development Planning Division, operating transfers into professional and specialized services and fixed assets for fiscal year 2015-16.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Norman Allender, Planning Director, here with Matt Schreiber, Deputy Planning Director. When we moved to the third floor and it was designed, the amount of offices was restricted to the amount of personnel that were, positions that were filled. As the recession has abated and we've gone back to, believe me, not full strength, but a portion of where we were previously, we have a little bit of a shortage in office space, and that's part of what this is to do, is to purchase new furniture and to some carpet for more office space, and also for some GIS mapping. One of the programs we need is some better GIS mapping all over the place. So it's to provide space for folks to sit and also to provide for those dollars. These are monies that have come from a restricted account, also known as trust fund accounts to some folks. So this is not new general fund dollars. This is money we have collected over the years for this purpose. We're here for questions if you have them. Thank you.
Move to approve. Any questions?
Second.
Any questions from the public? Bring it back to the board.
You have a second?
Okay, Tom first. I didn't hear.
I seconded.
First. Max. Second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6F.
County Administration Department, discussion and consideration of approval of proposed revisions to the county travel policy.
Good morning, Darren McCandless with the Administrative Office. This item seeks to make a couple of changes to the county travel policy. As you're probably aware, we process through the Administrative Office and then in turn through the Auditor's Office anywhere between 1,200 and 1,400 trip requests per year for staff to travel any number of places. So we started to look at the policy, looking for ways to maybe become more efficient, maybe relieve some of the administrative burden on the Administrative Office and the Auditor's Office. We came up with two changes. One of them is largely procedural, and the other is substantive. So in addition to just some general cleanup with the policy, of those 1,200 to 1,400 trip requests that we process, about 40% of them are just day trips. It's people going to Merced, people going to Fresno, a large number of people just going to Fresno. But those trips have required in the past the same administrative process, which is completing the triplicate form, sending it through the administrative office, down to the auditor's office. So the first revision is to eliminate the need for those day trips to come through the process. In other words, they would just be approved by the department head and processed just like any other claim through the auditor's office. So that just in hopes of becoming more efficient. The second change, which is more of a substantive change, has to do with the policy regarding advancements. In the past, or currently even, if you were going to Fresno and you were entitled to a meal, you could request the auditor to front you a check for $12 to go buy your lunch. Well, and to my surprise, people can and do request these $12 checks. So any number of things can happen. People don't pick up the checks. It's just a burden on the administrative office, the auditor's office. So the other proposal is that we place a limitation on advances to $50. That would still allow people who are traveling overnight to get advance funds, but would eliminate that burden of these small checks that are requested through the auditor's office. So those are the two primary revisions, in addition to just some general cleanup. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Tom?
Yeah, on page 5, with the breakfast, lunch, and dinner prices, when's the last time that's been changed?
It's been a while.
I think we need to change it. Every place I go where there's no breakfast, I can get for $10.
Yeah, and that's certainly something we can look at. In fact, our auditors made the same point.
I'd like to change it before while we're doing it. I love the way you guys have done that. And then also on page 6, you got that list of MEO, streetcar, and all that. You need to put parking fees on there too, because every place I go up Sacramento, they charge me anywhere from $10 to $25 a park, and so that needs to be on that one. But I don't know what that number is, whether it's 12, 15 for breakfast and 18 for lunch and dinner. I don't know, 25, 27. We got to change them. I don't want to leave them at that low.
Is there a standard set somewhere?
Yeah, and maybe the auditor can speak to that.
Yeah, this is our standard, and it's way too low. I mean,
This is the Madera standard. What many counties have done is they use the federal standard, and it actually takes into consideration higher and lower cost locales. So if you're going to Sacramento or San Francisco, your chances of getting a dinner for $22 or $23 is much diminished, as opposed to probably going to Fresno or Oakhurst.
Yeah.
So that is, they take that into consideration. What many counties have done, they just incorporate the federal reimbursement policy within their policy. So that would be an option to cover those items, or I think this has been done to be very conservative with those dollars. It's so the choice is really.
You have those numbers?
Do I know those numbers?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head?
Yeah, I mean, just approximately. I mean,
again, it depends on locales. If you actually look, there's the IRS publishes, especially within the state of California, but for all locales across the country, a method. They actually have the per diem reimbursement amount per city, by city.
I think we ought to adopt that part of our deal, because it'd only be fair, I think, because.
And then there's a high-low method. So there's a couple of methods of doing that.
Yeah.
But it's a little more realistic.
Yeah, this isn't realistic at all. And I don't eat nothing fancy. I don't drink coffee or nothing. You just have water, and then mine's never for breakfast. I mean, I eat egg, bacon, and toast, and that's it. So I think we need changes. How do we do it?
In Monterey over the weekend, my wife had oatmeal and fruit, and it was $14.
That's what I mean.
Can we bring this back and have staff check it out with new figures, like the board members have suggested, with the new revised figures? Could we do that?
Or could we pass it the way it is and then put those new numbers in?
Can I make a plea that we
leave it alone?
That we consider the elimination, the procedural part of this, which is eliminate the need for the day trips, and then maybe we can come back. We'll continue to work with the auditor's office to research the numbers a little bit and look at some revisions to the.
Okay,
I'll
make a motion.
We have a two-part here, so, okay.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve what's in front of us with the staff bringing back, adding that parking fees and the meal.
With the revised figures.
Revised figure for meals.
That's fine.
You second it?
Is that a motion?
Well,
Yeah.
let's,
I'll have a second.
I think we need a public comment section here.
Yeah.
Public comment? Any public comment? Seeing none. Before we make a motion, I want to thank the auditor and Darren for working on this. It's too bad we can't, one of these days, get to the private sector for basically the employee pays for their dinner and then get reimbursed once a month, just like we do on the gas. That would save the auditor a lot of problems too. So I'd like to see that worked on if we're talking about working on things. But anyway, thank you so much. Bring it back to the board.
I made the motion. He seconded it.
Second. Okay, we got Tom and Max.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
I'll have those numbers on your desk this week.
Okay, thanks. 6G.
We don't need the numbers on our desk. We just need you guys to bring it back to us to put them into this. We just need to put it back on the agenda. Right, Regina? Is that what we'd have to do?
Yes, and I think what Darren was alluding to is it will require us to go back to all 13 units, but I think these are going to be welcome changes.
We'll talk about that on the next agenda, right? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay, where are we at? 6G.
6G, County Administration Department and District Attorney Department, District Attorney Lobby Remodel. 1, discussion and consideration of approval of transfer of appropriations number 15-062 in the amount of $25,500 from Tobacco Fin Phase 2 Pool Fund, appropriations for contingency to operating transfers out capital project for fiscal years 2015-16, 4 votes required. 2, discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue number 15-0161 in the amount of $25,500 derived from Tobacco Fin Phase 2 Pool Fund to be appropriated to DA Lobby Project Buildings and Improvements. 4 votes required.
How you doing?
Morning,
Good
Mr.
morning.
Chairman and Board.
State your name.
John Markle, District Attorney's Office.
Thank you.
Since the September when the courthouse was relocated to G Street, the DA's office has had a serious concern over security measures. During this time, I've had 2 credible threats against district attorney that we've had to do special precautions getting them to and from court. And with our current situation, having a security guard, I've walked out several times in the hallway and found people just sitting there. Asked them what they're doing. Well, we're waiting for somebody. Well, that whole area is pretty much unsecured. They can go into main hallways, go down past probation, so forth and so on. A couple weeks ago, right outside my office, I have a door. It has a keypad. I've heard somebody hitting the keypad and not hitting the right numbers. And so I went to see what was going on, and it was a person just trying to figure out where they were going. So eventually, sometimes if you hit enough numbers, you can actually access through the door. This project right here would alleviate some of our security concerns at the DA's office by making one public entrance. And actually, they'll pass through my office, and I can see through the window who's going to the main door of the office. By doing this project, it'll also eliminate the need for security purposes. We can secure the main doors. Nobody will have access to the main hallways any longer. And after the initial costs are recovered, it would bring about $28,000 a year savings to the county by not having to have to post a security personnel in that area.
Very good. Move to approve. Anything from the board? Anything from the public? Bring it back to the board.
Motion.
Second. Okay, Brett and Dave. first and second.
Good job, John.
Good job. Very good job.
Thank you, John.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay, 6H.
6H, County Administration Department, General Services Division, Building Maintenance. 1, discussion and consideration of approval of transfer of appropriations number 15-069 in the amount of $64,000 from the PROV contingency appropriations for contingencies to building maintenance, MTCE, buildings and improvements and equipment furniture. Limit for fiscal year 2015-16, 4 votes required. 2, discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue number 15-069 in the amount of $20,000 derived from additional unanticipated revenues from some budget departments to be appropriated to building maintenance, MTCE, buildings and improvements for fiscal year 2015-16, 4 votes required.
I'm going to make a motion to approve this because it should have probably been on the consent calendar.
Okay.
Anybody got a second?
Second.
Anything for the public?
Anything for the public? Come back. Okay, got a first and second to put it on consent calendar?
No.
To pass it to
Yeah.
consent calendar?
I said it should have been on the consent calendar.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not what we said at the agenda meeting, so anyway. Okay, nothing for the public. Back to the board. First and second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you. 6J.
County Administration Department, Human Resources Operations Division, amendment to classification plan for probation program specialist. 1, discussion and consideration of approval to amend the classification plan by adding the class of probation program specialist. 2, discussion and consideration of approval to set the salary for a probation program specialist at range 217, $3,672 to $4,464 per month, $44,072 to $53,570 annually, $21.19 to $25.75 per hour. 3, discussion and consideration of approval to designate the probation program specialist class as overtime eligible pursuant to the Fair Labor Acts. 4, discussion and consideration of approval to authorize the Human Resources Operations Division to amend the position allocation resolution for the probation department as follows. A, add 1 full-time in org number 61332 and designate it to the class of probation program specialist. B, add 1 full-time in org number 04700 and designate it to the class of probation program specialist.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Adrian.
Before we
Taylor.
get started, I'm going to make a motion to approve this because
Okay.
this probably should have been on the consent calendar also.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm open for any questions. Then the board.
Okay. Any questions? Bring it to the public. No question? Bring it back to the board.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers? Yes. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Yes. Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay. No questions from county council on those consent calendar items?
I have no questions.
Okay.
Did you?
Okay. Let's go to, where are we at? 6J?
County Administration Department, Human Resources Operations Division, Madera County's Sexual Harassment, Discrimination Prevention, and Drug and Alcohol Policies. 1, discussion and consideration of approval of a resolution adopting policy and guidelines on discrimination and harassment. 2, discussion and consideration of approval of a resolution amending the County of Madera policies and guidelines on drug and alcohol use in the workplace.
Good morning again. Adrian Caleb, reporting to present to you amendments that were made to 2 policies that were outdated and they desperately needed revising. I am open for any questions. The information about the reasons for the revisions are outlined in the board letters.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Call for the vote.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
6K.
County Clerk, Recorder, and Registrar of Voters, purchase of microfilm scanner printer. 1, discussion and consideration of approval of transfer of appropriations number 15-060 in the amount of $15,000. Transfer from Recorder Micrographics appropriations for contingencies to operating transfers out for fiscal year 2015-16. 4 votes required. 2, discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue number 15-060 in the amount of $15,000 derived from Clerk Recorder operating transfers in micrographics to equipment and furniture $5,000 for fiscal year 2015-16. 3, discussion and consideration of approval to authorize the purchase of a ScanPro 3000 microfilm scanner printer from BMI Images Systems.
I move we approve item 6K, probably should have been on the consent calendar.
Second.
Anybody from the public? Bring it back to the board. Okay, we got a first and a second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers? Yes. Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Farinelli?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0. Yay!
Go get her, honey.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, go back to, I think we're done. Go back to closed session.
There are no reportable actions.
Thank you. Okay, let's go back to, what do we got now? Legislation? Any pending legislation? Hear none? What's the other one? Forgot. What's that? Yeah, anything from the staff? Any staff report? Any supervisor report?
I went to MCTC, which had three of us there. And then next Tuesday, I'll be leaving to Sacramento for the Valley Voice.
And I have my report here.
And I went to the MCPC, and I'm heading for Sacramento Thursday, which is not my pleasure, but the Forest Service and them want me to come up there and testify for the tree mortality. So
Great.
They didn't want me to send Brittany. They wanted me to come. So
Good.
I reluctantly said I would.
Good.
Oh, speaking of that,
I wonder how bad it really is.
did you hear that? They went to JPA last Friday. Okay. Speaking of that, the tree mortality, went on the PG&E tour in the helicopter,
right, yeah,
and we've got a major problem.
It's not even a word for it. I got 3 calls Sunday. You can be on Sunday. I know it's Sunday. We shouldn't call you. We don't know what to do. I said, I don't know what to do either. I'm going to Sacramento Thursday to try to get some more things. But we found out there might be some. The state gets a certain amount of money from FEMA no matter what, and so we might be able to be eligible for some of those dollars.
Well, that's good.
So that's one of the things. That's the reason they wanted me to be there, since our county is actually number 1.
Yep.
Too much?
Huh?
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, George.
Adjourn.
Adjourn. Thank you.